Hi, Pat the Podcast Editor here. Have you ever bought anything from your favourite YouTuber or influencer? Then you, my friend, have fallen into the trap of a creator-led business.
In this podcast, we're going to kind of break down and give some examples of creator-led businesses and why they're the future and what that actually means to marketers and business owners listening.
In a world where influencers are influencing the masses, Dan does a deep dive into the effectiveness of running a creator-led business.
Like, if there's no sign that's going to show you that creator-led business is the future, that this is the sign.
And I think a lot of industries are probably quite scared because it's showing, oh, hang on, they don't necessarily need us anymore to do this, which is, a big shift.
And Dan reveals everything on his Christmas list this year.
A new chocolate bar, Kylie Cosmetics, vodka $1 billion, and Kim Kardashian.
So, there you have it. Next time you go to buy the newest salt and pepper shaker your favourite influencer put their name on, ask yourselves, do I really want this, or am I falling into the trap of a creator-led business? This is episode 117 of the Business Anchors podcast.
We're just a couple of business anchors. Welcome to the Business Anchors podcast. This jingle is slightly too long. This jingle is slightly too long.
What is a creator-led business and why are they the future?
So traditionally, a normal business is built where a founder discovers a certain problem and believes they can solve that problem better than the solutions already out there on the market. So they create this solution, either a product or a service, and then once they've created that, they go out to the world and try to build an audience of people who give a shit enough about that solution to buy it. Yep. That's a traditional kind of business route.
Got it.
So it's important to understand that. The creator-led business route is where a creator, so think of like a YouTuber or a TikToker or someone who's creating content and has an audience, it could be a blogger, starts by having that audience and then does things the other way around. So they then work backwards to either partner with a company to create some kind of product or service for their audience or develop their own product to sell to the audience that they've already built. Does that make sense?
Yeah, got it.
So it's like the opposite way round of starting a business. And the reason it's so effective is because the really hard part about running a successful business is to actually build an audience of people who give enough of a shit to buy your product. That's the hard part.
So is this episode just for like TikTokers and YouTube? It's all just girls lip syncing, isn't it?
No, you're wrong there, Lloyd. No, it's not just for TikTokers and YouTubers.
Oh.
If you work in the marketing space, which a lot of people do who listen to this podcast, it's really important to understand the direction that companies are going. And this podcast, we're going to kind of break down and give some examples of creator-led businesses and why they're the future and what that actually means to marketers and business owners listening, because, we need to make this useful to people rather than just talk about creators.
So before we get into why sort of marketers should care about this and people in business should care about this, why do we think that it is the future?
Well, by looking at history, by looking at like what's already started to happen. So this isn't just something I've kind of plucked out of thin air and thought, that's the future. It's what I've seen happening. So to give you some examples, do you know the Sidemen, Lloyd?
I know the Sidemen, yes.
So the Sidemen are a group of YouTubers led by KSI, who most people have heard of.
Yeah.
And they create regular videos and they've built up millions and millions of subscribers across YouTube and other platforms. They're a prime example of how creators are building businesses around their audiences. So over the last sort of 6 to 12 months, they've started to bring out new products for their audiences. So I don't know if you've seen, they've brought out a vodka brand.
Yeah.
They've brought out Sides, which is like a sort of takeaway business. Yeah. They've even got like their own trading cards. Yeah. Have you seen any of this stuff online?
Yeah, well, what I thought was interesting with the vodka, so a few years back when basically they were kids and teenagers and their audience were kids, I suppose it was kind of like, well, where's the potential here to have a business with a creator-led business? Because when your audience are children, they probably don't have much money. But it's interesting. I found it interesting with them how they've grown with their audience. Now their audience, a lot of their audience are adults, and now they're like selling vodka and got this successful business with that. It's quite interesting to see how how they've been very clever as creators with their audience, and then these different revenue streams and businesses that are smashing it.
And it just seems like the logical approach. So you were asking like why is this the future? If you think of all of the time it takes for a new company to build that audience and that trust with that audience to eventually then have built that up enough to sell them something, this is flipping that on its head. There's no waiting time because creators have already invested a huge amount of time and effort in producing videos and content in general on these platforms that have already built that trust with their customers. Not their customers, their audience or their subscribers. Their audience are just waiting for them to suggest products. And this is like when influencer marketing came about, this was the start of that, where brands realized like, oh, that creator has 100,000 people who watch them every week, who trust them. We're just going to give them our product to sell and give them like commission or an affiliate fee. Now creators are getting clever and they're cutting out the middleman.
Yeah.
They're not just getting the affiliate fee, they're developing the products.
It's their business. They're getting the whole piece of the pie.
Yeah. Interestingly, though, there's kind of some creators that are sort of pulling the wool over people's eyes. So for example, Prime. If you're into YouTube and that kind of space, you would have heard of Prime. Prime is Logan Paul and KSI's drinks brand that they brought out. And all of the messaging that I've seen and everything communicated online is like, this is Logan Paul and KSI's new drink, Prime. They've got this drink. And when you think about it logically, like, when have they ever been drinks experts?
Also, it's not like a company approached them and said, we want to do this. And I think that would be a surprise to most of the audience that it wasn't their business. Like, we want to do this. They've certainly had input with how it's gone and stuff, but and I assume they now have a certain
they'll have a percentage,
but it wasn't their company that they started.
But I think this is also an important point because that's also clever because what needs to happen for these creator-led businesses to be a success, they can't just be shit products or services. Like, if you've never developed a drink and you're just like, I'll make a drink and try and do something in your parents' kitchen, it's not going to be as good as a proper company that's like been doing it for years. So actually partnering with these experts and brands is a good idea because then you're using their expertise combined with your audience. But I think the even better route, if you can get to this, if you're a creator, is to get to a point where you are developing your own products and services that are really aligned with your audience's interests.
Yeah.
So, for example, there's Casper Lee. Do you remember him? He was like a YouTuber.
Yeah.
Grew on YouTube, and he was like in the group of like Alfie Days and Zoella and that kind of thing, like way back when YouTube started. He now has an influencer marketing agency with a guy called Ben Jeffries. It's actually like their company. They're not like partnering with someone. They started that and founded that. And I guess their experience in the influencer world, because they were influencers themselves and they've done brand deals and that kind of thing, they've brought that expertise to actually develop their own company that's really aligned with their skills and that kind of thing. So that's the kind of two routes you can go down, or that creators are going down: partnering with experts like KSI and Logan Paul with Prime, and then the creator is kind of the poster boy or girl of that brand, or developing it yourself. That's the kind of two routes that the creators are going down.
Interesting. And I've seen, I know you spoke about Sidemen, but there's like Mr. Beast, he's like, probably the biggest creator on the planet at the moment.
Yeah.
But he's opening up restaurants and like loads of different things. And he's like, they're starting to talk about billions with Mr. Beast rather than millions financially. Like, it's... Yeah.
So there's just been a TikTok video that's gone viral that Gary V's also responded to, where Mr. Beast has actually said he's been offered $1 billion for his sort of empire. And he said he wouldn't take anything less than $10 billion for people to sell his sort of whole businesses and his brand.
That's
which
crazy,
is mental.
Isn't it? That is amazing.
And even Gary V, like, I think it's yesterday, did a sort of duet with it, saying he thinks 10 billion is too little to sell that. He's like, that would be a bargain if you bought his empire for 10 billion because of what he's built up. And then this is like, here's an example of the power of creator-led brands. Mr. Beast starts a chocolate brand called Feastables, right? He sells $10 million worth of chocolate, like a brand new brand, just sells $10 million worth of chocolate. He also starts up his burger, like Beast Burger restaurant chain thing, and he sold 10,000. He got 10,000 people in a not a supermarket. What's it called? Like an indoor.
I know, but I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to listen to an indoor what? Then?
A shopping centre.
Right. Okay.
Sorry, I just can't think of it. He launched his first in-person kind of restaurant for his burger brand. 10,000 plus fans went to that shopping centre in America.
It's just
to buy his burgers.
It's almost like it's what every business dreams of. So you just have to make sure you're doing a good thing in your business, and then you click your fingers, and you've got thousands of customers on day one. Yeah. And so if that thing's good enough, if the burgers are good enough, if the chocolate's good enough, obviously they will be customers you retain, or enough of them will be. Yeah. So. Yeah, it's such a unique place to be. One of the biggest challenges for businesses, it's not only doing that good thing, having that good product or service, it's getting enough customers. Yeah. It's a huge challenge that people take years and invest millions of pounds to get there. And from these creators, they have that audience where they could just go, click the fingers, okay, put our social posts out, announce it, and now we already have 100,000 customers.
And it's a proven model. Like many creators are doing this. If you think of Kylie Jenner, the Kim Kardashian sister, she started Kylie Cosmetics, which is now worth over $1 billion, or been valued at over $1 billion. Kim Kardashian started a clothing brand, Skims, now valued over $2.8 billion. Like, it is absolutely mental. We mentioned the Sidemen earlier. The Sidemen recently did a charity football match. Did you see that online? Yeah. So they did a charity football match. They had 2.6 million concurrent viewers online on that football match. Like, a group of teenagers who started a YouTube channel had 2.6 million people watching their charity football match. They had 27,000 live fans in the stadium that had bought tickets to go and watch this football game, and they raised over £1 million for charity. And these, like, if there's no sign that's going to show you that creator-led business of the future, that this is the sign. These
creators and businesses around them now are realizing they can do it without the traditional methods. So that previously would have had to be on BBC and had the BBC kind of production around them to make that happen. And it would have had to have these traditional TV celebrities on the mic and that kind of thing. These creators are now realizing they have just as much, if not more, pulling power with their audiences to do the same thing without those traditional ways. And I think a lot of industries are probably quite scared because it's showing, oh, hang on, they don't necessarily need us anymore to do this.
Exactly.
Which is, a big shift.
And I think, like, if you're listening to this and you're not a YouTuber or TikToker,
you're clearly not a TikToker.
If you're not a YouTuber or a TikToker or a creator, this is still super relevant to you if you're a marketer, because it's so important to understand the future of businesses surviving is that they need to be a content-led business. And this is why big brands are like acquiring content companies. Because it's easier, and this is what in terms of what's going to happen in the future, I can see brands literally acquiring creator brands. Like we just mentioned about Mr. Beast selling his empire for $1 billion or 10 billion. In the future, I can see, McDonald's buying Mr. Beast's empire, or Nike.
Do you think when those deals are done, there will be like that creator will have to stay within it to make it a success? As in a decade, do you think Mr. Beast has to be at the face of these businesses to make them still valuable, or do you think actually they could get big enough where he can remove himself from the situation, they still hold that value?
I think he can remove himself from the situation and still hold the value. If you think of like Tim Cook with Apple or Richard Branson with Virgin, they started out being the big personalities, but the company is still hugely successful.
Do you mean Steve Jobs?
Steve Jobs, yeah, sorry. Steve Jobs.
the new guy. Well,
Yeah.
he's not really new anymore, is he?
Yeah, well, he's still pretty big.
But yeah,
personality.
same sort of thing. Yeah.
Or Elon Musk. Like Tesla's still huge. It's not just because of him. But I guess that is a good point. If they completely go out of this situation, would that? I can imagine it having a negative impact.
I think though over time, I think it's something you can do gradually over time. In a decade, like that chocolate company is going to have a life of its own without Mr. Beast needing to be the face of it. Do you know what I mean? So say he grows it to the second biggest chocolate company in the world. That then has a life of its own, and people at that stage, it's at a scale where people buy it not knowing who Mr. Beast is.
Yes.
Then it has that life cycle beyond the creator.
Yeah. And this is why I think this is so important for companies in terms of focusing resource into building themselves up as creators, right? Because if you think about it, what's going to give you long-term security as a company is having an audience. Because no matter what happens in the world, let's say, for our video and social media marketing agency, let's say there's some kind of technology advancement, which means no one needs video or social media anymore. If we've got an audience of people that we've built up who like listening to business anchors or who like hearing our thoughts on marketing and advertising, they're going to stick around no matter how our business evolves. We could, diversify into doing something completely different, but we've got that core audience of people who care about us. And that's why I think brands need to be doing the same.
Yeah. So how, what do you think people should actually be doing? So as marketers or people within brands, how can we start going in this direction?
Creating content at a good level. I think that sounds like such basic advice, but I still think there's a huge amount of brands that are underestimating how much they should be investing in creating content that's building an audience. It's kind of like a side box ticking exercise. We've got our, even companies that have a decent customer base, they're like ticking over. Those are the ones that are at risk. If they haven't built up that audience of people who give a shit about them, if something changes with technology, like think about like Blockbuster, when things shifted and Netflix came about, they just completely died. But if they had built, well, I suppose if they had an audience of people, but they just didn't want to kind of shift what they were offering. There's that story of them, was it Netflix offered to buy Blockbuster? And they were like, no, everyone's going to want to keep going into video stores. And do you ever remember going into a video store?
Yeah, we used to do it all the time. As kids, do you remember there was that one called Apollo? That was good. And then I remember over the years, it's funny, then obviously people stopped renting DVDs and stuff. Yeah. And like half of it became just like a corner shop. And then it was just a corner shop with loads of DVDs one side, wasn't it? And then it was they got a really good idea, made it an internet cafe just as they were dying out. And now it's
back to being a premier shop, I think.
Yeah. Apollo was good though. Do you remember we hired a Bug's Life on videotape?
Yeah, never took it back.
Our machine chewed it up.
What, a VHS player?
VHS player, yeah. Well, we've gone off a bit. So I suppose, is this creator-led business, is this in a way, this podcast that we do, so we don't have like our business branding or anything. It's not called like the Knowlton podcast, but is this kind of partially what you're saying?
Yes.
Like an angle people could have in their businesses, as in we are the owners of our business and we are doing this podcast to become creators and build that audience.
So I think there's different ways of looking at this. So there's the approach of looking at employees of a company and how this can help them. So I would be working on building my personal brand and my presence and building an audience as an employee, because no matter what direction you're going in, it's going to be valuable to have an audience of people who watch and listen to what you do over time. That could help you get new job opportunities. That could help you create your own business to sell products and services to that audience. So there's that angle. The other angle is if you run a company already, it's about having that creator mentality of we're going to produce content that people keep coming back and watching. And it could be, thinking about certain personalities in your company that you can get on camera, like the GOAT vlog that they do.
The Go Agency.
The Go Agency vlog, you know, they have certain characters within the company, and you kind of are bought into their vlog because you've kind of following those characters along.
Yeah.
It's about having that mindset of a creator, and focusing more resource into actually producing decent quality content, not just the boring like case study video.
I suppose that's the challenge, isn't it? People actually have to put time and effort into this.
Yes.
And potentially money.
And it's a long-term approach again, which again will scare most people watching and listening to this. It's like, oh no, it will take longer than a few weeks.
Probably after a year of Mr. Beast, he wouldn't get offered more than 500 quid for his empire. If you know what I mean.
Exactly.
It is a long-term approach, isn't it? Where you build the audience and that audience becoins more and more value.
It's just like, this is meta.
More valuable.
So this is meta. So this podcast, Business Anchors, it took us, I think it must have been about 2 years of doing this podcast before one of the most well-known like tech companies, Adobe Express, sponsored it. So it took us 2 years of doing a weekly podcast every week before we'd built up enough credibility to have a company like that want to pay us to sponsor the podcast, right?
Yeah.
So things like that take time. It's just having the patience to actually getting the results.
Nice. Good insight to creator-led businesses. Any other important things to note, Dan, would you say?
I guess the final thing is just to note that the product or service actually needs to be good. Like I can envision creators trying like this whole pattern of creators coming up with businesses happening, but they're being shit ones as well.
Yeah.
Because people will see other creators like Mr. Beast and decide, oh, they're coming up with products, we should do the same. But the big focus should be actually coming up with, and this is why partnering with experts and other companies probably is a good idea if you're not.
The reason we're talking about Mr. Beast and the Sidemen is because they're the best at it. They are genuinely really good business people making really good decisions and putting in the time and the work to make sure those businesses around them are providing high quality products and services. I think any creator with an audience can sell you merch. You know, that's how it kind of started and how they realized they could make money outside of their content creation. It's like, oh, we can sell t-shirts with our brand on it. And anyone can do that. And a lot of people have done that and not really sold much at all over time because they're like, this is I can make a quick buck here. I can sell t-shirts and it doesn't matter how good they are because they're just going to buy them.
Yeah.
And I think creators are going to be regretting that because they've lost that purchasing power. Their audience no longer trusts them. Whereas if your products you're actually selling are always good, it almost the more you sell to them, the more they're going to buy. Like Mr. Beast, every time, so they bought some of the chocolate and they're like, this is actually the best chocolate. Then they've gone to Beast Burger and been like, this is actually like the best burger I've ever had. And so the next business he comes out with, it's even more likely people are going to buy from him.
Yeah.
Whereas those people that just want to make some money quick, they're going to do it once, and then the purchase power of the audience is going to decrease because it's going to be like, well, I don't trust this guy anymore.
The creators that do it well will have longevity. The ones that actually focus on, rather than trying to make a quick buck or just selling merch or whatever, actually thinking like, what problems do my audience have? My 100,000 subscribers or my 10 million subscribers, what does that problems do that group of people have? And how can I either come up with a solution or partner with a company that has a solution that's really good to help them solve that problem? And that's keeping things really basic and simple. That's how this is going to go moving forward. Yeah. So, and we're even doing this ourselves by, we are creators. This is how much we believe in this. We are creators building up our audience of you lot because we believe in the value of having an audience that listen to you and trust you.
And I guess, trying to encourage businesses of all sizes, not just people with millions of pounds and millions of followers, that this is a good way to go. Yeah.
I believe creators are the future. What's that song?
I believe creators are the future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. I sang that on stage in year 7 at the Margate Winter Gardens. Not the creator bit, but children are the future.
Cool.
Yeah, great way to end that episode, isn't it? Anything more to say, Dan?
No, I just think if you want to stand out, if you're working in marketing in a company and you want to stand out to your boss, then start talking about this stuff because it shows that you actually have an idea about what's going on in the marketing world.
Yes. Forward them this episode and just say, don't listen to the last bit where they told me to forward this to my boss. Okay. Brilliant. Thanks for listening, guys. And we'll see you in your ears next week.